One of Jordan Peterson's 12 rules for life is to treat yourself like someone you're responsible for. And like a lot of good advice that we're given in life, we don't really take it seriously until something happens to us in life that teaches us that lesson, right? It's that classic case of, someone tells you to do something, you're not really going to listen to it, but then when you learn the lesson like painfully, then you take it seriously, right? I've heard of that quote where it's like, oh, smart men learn from their mistakes, but wise men learn from the mistakes of others, right? And while that is pretty good, it takes a lot for you to be able to learn from the mistakes of others. Like, you need to have that personal experience in order for you to truly learn that lesson. But speaking of Jordan Peterson's rule for life, which is treat yourself like someone you're responsible for, I never really took it into account. I listened to it and I'd be like, that's some good advice. But then, like I said, with most good advice, we're kind of just like, that's cool, but I'm not gonna do it, right? And for me, it's finally taken root when I've realized that I will make serious progress towards something. I will build quite decent momentum, right? And then when I do fall off the wagon, and this has happened in the last couple of years, it's like I do fall off the wagon, I try to jump at the speed that I was at when I fell off the wagon, right? It's like, oh, I'm trying to get back to where I was. I'm trying to start exactly as I was. So if I can give an example, it's like, oh, when I did start working out, I've started making serious progress, right? And then I fall off the wagon for whatever reason, right? And I try to jump back in, doing the same level of workouts I was doing, going hard, doing the 5 days a week that I've been doing the exact same workouts, the hour and a half long workouts. And it's very difficult to get rid of that mentality, right? And even now, as I'm saying it, I don't know if I'm actually doing that. It's still difficult. It's so ingrained in us because for me, and this is where I've made the realization, is that when I did make progress, when I started making serious progress towards self-improvement, I started off making incremental progress. It was incremental steps, right? It was taking baby steps, right? Going back to Jordan Peterson, he says clean your room, right? And that's not some joke he's making. It's things are so difficult in your life. Just start off with the basics. Really, just start off with the basics. But people don't want to clean their room. They want to go change the world. They want to do something hectic. They want to do something proper. But it's you start off with the tiny things. And this is how I got onto my self-improvement journey. And I started making serious progress. It was incremental. Going back to my gym example. I started off I was doing home workouts on YouTube videos that I saw on YouTube, and I'd save those and I'd do them. And I think they were 30-minute workouts, and I'd do 3 of those a week, right? Then after a couple of weeks, I increased to 4, and then I increased to 5, and then increased to 6. Then eventually I was I'm gonna increase the intensity of the workouts, and I increased the length of the workouts, and eventually I got to where I was doing 6 days a week, 1.5 hours, and it's proper, right? That's how I made that progress. It was incremental, right? And then another example I can give is making content. I never just started off making content because, now I'm making YouTube videos, but even then, when I did start making content, I started off with short form content. And when I did start that, it wasn't 3 days a week every single day, right? Which is what I ended up doing. When I started, it was literally as simple as, okay, I'm going to try and post, I forgot how long it was. I think it was probably I did try and post daily, but it was quite simple things. It was I'll take a picture of me going on my walk, and then I'll just post about what I've been thinking. That's how I started. No one was gonna watch it, obviously. It wasn't gonna go viral, but it was just about starting, right? In fact, I didn't even start with that. I started off with making fantasy Premier League content, because I was I couldn't think of what I wanted to do. I was let me just start making content, and then I thought, okay, I'm gonna make what I like doing. I like playing fantasy Premier League. Let me make an Instagram account on that. Then, as the time passed, I was okay, I want to make something to do with gym or motivation in that sort of area. And then I was okay, I'll just post things of me gymming or whatever it is, just that. And then it started developing. I was oh, let me start talking about my self-improvement life, that sort of thing. And it was still picture posts on Instagram, by the way. I knew I had to do reels because reels were what's blowing up, but I was I just want to do pictures. That it felt so difficult for me to do reels. And then when I did do the pictures, eventually I got to a point where I was doing one reel. It was one reel a day. I progressed to posting 3 times a day picture posts, right? But I'd have those in a batch. I'd do them on the Sunday, right? I'd do those for the week, and then you see, I built that system. I didn't start like that. I literally started with just taking a picture of me on a walk, and then I'm speaking about why walks are good for you or whatever it was, and I progressed, and then I started doing 3 times a day. Then I was like, let me batch that and let me do those on Sunday. And then I was like, let me include a reel a week. And I wasn't even making my own reels. I just learned that you could download reels or you could download TikToks and remove like the watermark and repost them. And I was like, I'm gonna do that, right? And I did that, and then eventually I was like, oh, I need to make reels like more and more. And then I was like, okay, how am I going to transition into making my own reels? And then it was like, I'll record myself working out. I still remember the video I made. It was just, I recorded myself doing push-ups, right? And then I put like a cheesy little quote. I was like, I forgot what it was like. It was about discipline or something. It was literally just a quote I'd heard, and I put like some music behind it, and I had a reel. Like, I learned how to make a reel. And then I do those. I think I ended up switching to posting 3 reposted reels a day, and then 1 of like my own reels, right? I ditched the picture posts because obviously those weren't growing. And you see how I transitioned to that. Now I was posting 3 reposted and 1 of my own a day. Then eventually I transitioned to making my own. I was like, okay, ditch the reposts, like just do your own. And I started doing 3 of them a day. And I was doing that on TikTok and Instagram. Then eventually I started learning how to make good reels. Like you have to remake like ones that go popular and like use trending sounds and all of that. But that was over. I started creating content, I think it was June 2021. By the time I started making my own reels and I was making like proper ones, I think it was probably Jan 2022. Like that was over a 6-month period, right? And I just started going. I just started building, and then I blew up. Basically, I blew up on TikTok and Instagram. But that was over the year. And then I was like, I started watching, like, I had been watching Hamza, but I saw like he had his unfiltered channel where he would just post videos where he just talks about his self-improvement life. And I was like, that looks pretty cool. Like, and it's doable. Like, he was getting like hundreds of thousands of views, and I was like, okay, so there is a way to do it like that. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna post 1 video a week. It was 1 YouTube video a week. And I remember the first one I posted was a no-fap video. And I was like, I'll just post 1 a week. I just put on the camera, and again, I'm still using my phone now. Obviously now it's a bit better. I have my phone, I have my mic, I have a tripod, and I'm using my light. But this is like a desk light that I'm using. Again, I'm gonna keep improving. But like when I started, it was literally I was sat down on a desk, and I had my phone facing like this, and I was just recording. I was just talking. The audio was bad, the video was bad, but I just started, right? And then I kept increasing, and now I went to 3 times a week. Then I was like, I'm gonna post 5 times a week, and now that's what I'm doing, right? And that's how I've made that progress in those domains. It was progressive overload. Hamza talks about it all the time. Progressively overloading, you're getting better and better. But then, going back to what we're talking about, I think I've kind of sidetracked. It's important to make sure you treat yourself like someone you're responsible for. So going back to my example, it's like, I've got this, I'll say cognitive bias. Like I'm in there and I'm like, okay, I've been working out like this much. I've been working out 6 times a week. I've recently changed back to 5 times a week. But it's like I was working at this intensity and I fell off the wagon. When I want to start, I don't want to humble myself and start working out, like again, doing 30-minute workouts 3 days a week. But the thing is, like, you really need to think about it in a bigger picture, right? If it takes you, using my example, if it takes me 6 months, right, after I've fallen off the wagon to fully get back on the wagon, where I'm training 5 days a week and I'm training proper intensity, 1.5 hours a day, if it takes me 6 months to do that because I'm trying to get back where I left off, right? How is that better than humbling myself, right, and just starting off with like, or maybe I start just doing push-ups every day, or I start doing like a 10-minute workout every day, or maybe I just do like 30-minute workouts 3 times a week. I start that way and then I build. But then it takes me 2 months to get back to where I was before. How is it taking 6 months trying to jump on at the same level I was when I left off better than taking 2 months, right, but humbling myself, right? And when you look at it that way, it's like, yeah, you're being stupid. But I guess the difficulty is that you don't think it's going to take you 6 months, right? Like, I look at it, I'm like, I don't think it's going to take me 6 months if I just try and just hop on, like if I could just get it right. It's that stubbornness, right? But then it goes back to the Jordan Peterson rule: just treat yourself like someone you're responsible for. If you took yourself out of the situation, in fact, forget that. Like, imagine it's like a friend that's asking you, or it's like a little brother or something that's asking you for advice, like in the same situation as you. What would you tell them? Right? You would tell them, oh, just slowly get back into it. Just slowly, just do bit by bit. You know, don't rush it. Just do bit by bit. You would tell them to do that because you know it's best for them. You know if they try and hop on the wagon where they were at before, it's not going to work. So why are you trying to do something different? Like, you're just stuffing yourself. And I think that's where, like, the rule of like treat yourself like someone you're responsible for works. Because you give yourself good, you give people, if a friend comes and asks you for advice, you give them objective, good advice that works. But when it's you don't take that advice for whatever reason. And yeah, I think it's just important to try and practice that, like treating yourself like someone you're responsible for. But yeah, make sure you subscribe to join the Self-Improvement Brotherhood. And until next time, I'll see you boys.